I've refrained from wearing women's clothes, at least anything you can see. I've got slightly colorful socks on today. So thank you very much. This is indeed a very unique opportunity because what wasn't mentioned is I actually went to York. I'm a York grad. So it's truly a pleasure to come back at every occasion and speak to a crowd either from York or just on the campus, enjoying the facilities that I believe I helped pay for. Are we up there yet? There we go. I was approached to speak today on the topic of impact matters, and I thought to myself, what the hell am I going to talk about? And thought of two things that it sort of struck in my mind. One, the idea that I've got to identify the biggest problem in the world to find out how we can have the biggest impact. So I tried to identify first what the most major problem was that I could see, and then next, didn't want to present a problem without a solution, so figure out what solution was out there that I thought we could help solve that in particular problem. And as you can imagine, and I think a lot of you would guess, I came up with the issue of climate change. I'm going to start my sort of whole presentation centers around it, the preface that we all believe that climate change is actually happening, and that in fact that it is indeed an issue that we should be tackling. Second, that this is a real and very catastrophic problem that we're facing. It's the problem being so significant, it seems that humankind is in fact facilitating its own extinction. We're going through a process of consumption and natural resource use that is actually going to result in the extinction of our own species in the end. I at least firmly believe that. Technology aside, I think we're definitely going down that path. And this graph I just thought was a good illustrator of this. We've been on, and partly the fact that I couldn't get access to the slides from Mr. Gore. It seems that there's a trademark associated with them, so I couldn't share them with you here today. But I did come up with a couple slides of my own, and this just illustrating the very significant increase in the mean temperature, surface temperature that the globe is going to face as a result of increasing greenhouse gas emissions. So we see this is a form by the IPCC. We see if we continue on the constant path, we're only going up towards the 1 degree mark. But because of growth, population growth, and growth in our consumption and our carbon dioxide greenhouse gas emissions, we actually have a couple of scenarios. Some a little bit more bleak than others, but all end up just having a massive increase in the global mean surface temperature. We've already seen this happen. We know it's occurring. There's been a 0.2% increase in the last 30 years. But while that's across the globe, we actually feel it even more in Canada, where we've felt closer to a 3 to 4 degree Celsius increase in just the past 50 years. And so we all see the pictures of what impacts this is gonna have on biodiversity, but also the very real impacts of the growing season in Canada and our winter wheat crop, as well as the more erratic weather behavior that we're going to continuously see. And I think, if anything, some indications of this past winter could have in fact been a result of that. And how's Canada doing? Well, we're not actually faring too well. This is one of the most recent graphs, and it does show a glimmer of hope in Canada's performance. But this tracks the greenhouse gas emissions for Canada from 1990, the baseline for Kyoto, until 2010, where we start to see a little bit of a decrease, but far away from the goal that we've recently set in Copenhagen, which is the one with the arrow up there, and the one the red dot here, which is the Kyoto targets. So what can we do? And here's where the solution comes in. Buildings in Canada consume 50% of the natural resources that we actually use. Massive amount of natural resources go into building and maintaining our building stock, where we spend most of our time, where we are today. 33% of our energy that we consume through the use of buildings. Sure, transportation, massive, major issue. We need to have a greater impact on that. But buildings themselves actually consume a great deal of the energy that we use from day to day. So where was the change going to be coming from? People, in fact, really want to change. A recent survey had showed that 70% of home buyers will actually pay 10% more for a house that's considered a green home, so one that is higher efficiency, one that consumes less resources and energy. And that same survey showed that people really think that the government should be in the driver's seat to make sure that we start meeting these goals. I had the pleasure of being at my office hours earlier today. Unlike your professor's office hours, or maybe there's professors in the crowd as well, I sit at a folding table at a local community building and hear about parking issues all day. But one of the things that I heard of today was a young couple that sat down. We were talking about what was going on in their neighborhood. And the biggest thing said, well, why aren't we demanding greater things from the condos going up on Toronto's waterfront? Why aren't they to the highest standards? And the fact is they're getting better. But it's difficult. It's difficult to implement that kind of change and on the scale that we need. And I see it as being, as a lot of politics being done in two ways. One is with a stick and one is with a carrot. We either entice people to making a change by voluntary measures, or we force them to make a change. And sometimes there's actually a role for both. First, on the stick side, we tell them you have to build better buildings. We improve the building code so you can only use certain materials and meet certain levels of energy efficiency. In Toronto, we in fact have the Green Building Standard, which improves significantly on the existing building code because of the rights we have in the city to enact certain bylaws that requires higher energy efficiency, that requires green roofs, stuff of that nature. Public policy can also be a regulatory thing. The Ontario government has actually put in place a path to getting away from the use of coal for electricity, which is again a regulatory measure to decrease our greenhouse gas contributions from our buildings. And finally, an increase in energy costs. The way the system works in Ontario, the government has a great deal to do with setting the cost of electricity based on the cost of production, the cost of distribution, the cost of other energy incentive programs. So the cost of energy can actually play a pretty big role in this on the regulatory side. On the carrot side, we've got voluntary programs. The Eco Energy Homes program that was recently canceled by the federal Conservative government that gave grants to homeowners to make upgrades on their existing buildings and new buildings. Toronto Hydro has similar programs, but again, these are being, roadblocks are going up because the Ontario Energy Board didn't allow for a recent increase in Toronto's electricity rates, which means more of the money has to be spent on upgrading infrastructure and not on programs that actually decrease the overall energy consumption. And again, rising energy costs could be an incentive, because as they go up, you can generally use a little bit of less energy by hitting your lights off and stuff like that. So in Toronto, and cities in general are great agents of change because locally, they deliver all the services on the ground. And so we have probably the best ability to implement a climate change mitigation and adaptation agenda. If you think of the think globally, act locally, the municipalities are really where the rubber hits the road. Toronto is doing a great deal. I'm not going to go through any of these in great detail, but I've talked about the Green Building Standard. We've got a renewable energy strategy. The Toronto Atmospheric Fund is ongoingly paying for buildings to have upgrades as investments. They're getting return on this. And that's what I'd like to talk most about today. This is the solution side of it. What would you do if I told you that we could improve the energy performance of your house, raise the value of your house, create tens of thousands of jobs at absolutely zero cost to you? And it kind of sounds like I'm selling you a car, this zero down, low interest, pay as you save thing. But in fact, this is actually going on. In the US, it's been called property assessed cash payments, it's or called PACE loans. And in Canada, it's been termed by a consultant who's done a lot of work on this for the David Suzuki Foundation, Sonia Persam, as property assessed payments for energy retrofits. It's kind of a better acronym, I think, but maybe paper loans doesn't make much sense either. It was developed originally in Monterey Bay, and it was actually part of the U.S. economic recovery agenda. Cities like Halifax are starting to pick it up in Ontario, but we're still or in Canada, we're still a long ways off though in Ontario. In a nutshell, at the top we've got the banks loan the city money. The city often takes out debt to pay for infrastructure programs of every kind, putting pipes under the roads for sewage, doing that kind of, building roads themselves. The city issues, or the bank issues a loan in the form of debentures to the city. The city then offers a retrofit program to homeowners. The homeowners do energy audits and they come back to the city. It goes through sort of an algorithm about where the best savings and investment is. The city then issues loans for the work, low interest loans for the work that the homeowner repays through their property taxes. So the loan's not connected to the individual, it's connected to the building that's going to be there for 70 years. The individual may only be there for 2 or 3. So we're removing the risk of the investment from the homeowner and putting it on the building. So over the 15-year course of doing that payback, so that the homeowner sees an immediate return, because they actually only pay back a portion or lesser that they have in their energy saving, their cost of energy savings, and then the city pays back the bank. The benefits are is they average about $7,000 to $10,000 retrofits. They reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 3.1 tons per year per household. They reduce energy consumption by 23 to 26%, which translates into something like a $700 a year savings on a heating bill of $2,000. For every $1 million invested in this way, which again costs the city nothing, costs the government nothing, costs you nothing in the end, except for you get a good energy retrofit and the value of your home goes up, you actually get 15 jobs are created. Now this is a low number. Others have assessed this as being as many as 70 jobs per million created. This increases the value of the home, it increases tax revenue, and actually increases the need for more spending on infrastructure in the city, because as the city grows, you then don't need to continuously add infrastructure to run the same, or to service the same number of homes. Some roadblocks blocks that we've seen, there's provincial legislation that actually stops us from doing this, so we're going to have to put some pressure on the provincial government to make a change to what they call local improvement charges, which are in fact what's allowing the city to do this. For some reason, they don't consider fighting climate change a community benefit, which is the type of language we got to start talking here. There's also a huge misconception around what the role of the city is, and from this one could deduce that why is the city acting like a bank? Why can't I just go get a loan for this? Well, the explanation is that the loan's not to you, it's actually to your house. So that if you decide to leave, your investment of the $7,000, you don't have to then expect your house to sell for $7,000 more, because you just walk away from the loan, and the next person that buys that house assumes the loan because they see it on their taxes, but they also see it on their energy bill. What we're going to do to actually make this happen is we're currently putting together a team of people from all different backgrounds. And this is what I sort of learned in my career as an environmental organizer and a community organizer, is you need to get everyone on the same page in order to really have the fight. You need to have the economic side, you need to have the environmental side, and you need to have the labor side. So if you have all those three groups swimming in the same direction, then you can really make some change. Because who's going to argue if you have the leader of the city's largest union, the leader of the city's economic development sector, and David Suzuki all singing the same chorus? Well, you're not likely to see much opposition to that. So we've currently already attracted folks like the Toronto Real Estate Board. We're working on the Board of Trade, and these are groups that are coming into, and we've got apparently RBC, the financial to come in as our financial banking stakeholder. Then we've got the significant union support as well as significant environmental support. So now that we are getting everyone coming together around that, I think we're going to be able to put together a pretty solid campaign to start probably what will be the biggest property assessed loan system in North America. So we're very hopeful to that, and I encourage you all to, as you see this come out, we'll likely be working a little bit with York University on this, with my faculty, actually, the Faculty of Environmental Studies, to try to make this happen. So thank you all so very much for your time, and have a nice day.